But it's funny, guys. Like, I messaged you guys yesterday, this morning, and I asked you guys want to do an episode, and Johnny said, "Oh, let's do it if there's something to talk about." Yeah, well, there's a big thing to talk about with the Azzurri bombshell yesterday, and Mancini announces that he's resigning from the team. Um, I don't know what your guys' first thought was, but my first thought was, why now? Like, this could have been done after the Nations League. A lot of us were already calling for his resignation, whether him resign or the FIGC fire him back after the Nations League loss against Spain. I mean, I know they won against the Netherlands, another third place. Nations League doesn't really mean much, but it just got to a point. It felt like there just need to be a change, and yes, it's happening, but why 2 months late? With more qualifiers coming up in less than a month now, it just feels weird timing on a Sunday morning. Obviously, already there's rumors that he's going to go to Saudi Arabia for 40 million a season. I like he's the guy that saved the Azzurri, but then sunk them at the same time. And now the divorce is getting ugly because there's him coming out saying things about Gravina. I'm sure Gravina is going to come out and say things about him. It's not pretty. I don't like what's happening. Not gonna lie, I've lost a bit of respect for Mancini. Obviously grateful for what he gave during the Euros, but after missing the World Cup and after everything that's happened since winning the Euros, it was a downfall, and yeah, I'm just not surprised. What do you guys what do you guys think?
I think we should wait till we have the full picture on things to get the both sides of the story. Uh, we do know that throughout the past few years, every once in a while there was a little rumbling that came out that Mancini always wanted to maybe try towards a different direction for the Azzurri, but there was some roadblocks that he faced as well. In his recent games, he did play the youth. He did change things up a bit, and every once in a while he would. So maybe he did have like conflict of opinion with. We all know that the FIGC is a very, very, very old governing board. So a lot of old heads. So it could be the truth. Now with the rumors thing about going to Saudi Arabia, that's just rumors. We have to wait for more facts. I'm not saying it's untrue, but let's just wait because it just came out like not even a few hours ago. So I think we should pump the brakes on that. But one thing I do want to raise, like attention to is the fact that like a manager like Ancelotti, for example, never managed the Italian national team. Obviously, because club teams pay way more sometimes than a national team, but the man obviously, stayed away from it for a very long time when he could have been a great option. Conte, left immediately once he got that offer from Chelsea and never looked back. Lippi left after winning the World Cup and then came back, but then left immediately. Like it's going to be a rotating door. It's going to be a rotating door, revolving door. It's going to be a revolving door of managers throughout the years. We have to keep an eye on like why certain managers leave. There's always it's rare that you'll have a manager for the Italian national team stay as long as like Mancini did. Usually these managers have a short lifespan. I remember growing up, every international tournament brought a new manager to the team. Like there's a change every 2 years, and Mancini lasted longer than that. So uh, I think honestly speaking, in a good while since probably the '90s, since like the early '90s, who was the last? I think he was like the most recent longest tenured coach. I think before him was who was the guy that used to manage Milan in the '90s?
Capello,
Was it
Did
Capello?
Prandelli had
Prandelli, Trapattoni.
Prandelli
I don't know.
had what 4 years?
I
Because he
don't
did the
remember.
Euros and the World Cup.
2012. Yeah.
So I don't know exactly when he came in. He left in 2014. I have to look up when he came in. Probably after the
Uh,
2010 World Cup.
but the point still
Yeah,
remains. I mean, I think
Yeah.
Johnny's point still remains.
No, you're right. Almost 5 years
I think
for
I think
Mancini. Yeah.
what I'm trying to say is that like he had a belief in the team, he had a belief in the players, he knew that he can continue having success with them. That's why he stayed. But maybe there was a conflict of opinion. But either way, I don't think that the pool is that shallow in terms of talented coaches that can step up and take the role for the Azzurri. It's just more about convincing someone to actually do it. That's where I'm a little bit worried.
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys nailed some good points. I mean, the the biggest topic has been obviously the timing, like Nick said, and like many other people said on online. The timing of all this was really the thing that really caught most people's eyes. Um, why now? Like Nick said, I mean, this, forget even after the Nations League, we didn't qualify for a second World Cup, guys. And I mean, I know we had different, we were singing a different tune back then. Or you know what, stick with Mancini, ride out this wave. If this is going to be the case, might as well. The grass isn't always greener, stuff of that nature. But looking back, in hindsight, maybe guys, we should have turned the page, sooner rather than later, after this news. So again, it was never going to always last. It never was going to always be Mancini behind the bench for the Azzurri. But for all the good that he brought, obviously there were some negatives, and I think it's definitely time, long overdue now to turn this page. The joy of Euro 2020 we'll never forget. We'll always thank him for that. The undefeated streak that he had held with the Azzurri, we'll never forget these things. The rotations of players, introducing new players. Obviously, it's still going with kind of like the old guard as well, but introducing players that we hadn't seen earlier and prior. So for those small things, and obviously the biggest joy in winning the Euros, obviously we'll always remember, but not from going from such a high to going to such a low in such a short period of time, I think is really what stung a lot of Azzurri fans, and rightfully so. I mean, Italy deserves a lot better in terms of the national team. So my biggest thing now is, obviously, like Jenny said, and like we've seen earlier just before coming on here, obviously the back and forth with Mancini firing shots and this soap opera, Italian soap opera back and forth. I can already see it, him, Gravina, and FIGC, and just going back and forth. But listen, whatever is said is going to be said. Who's right, who's in the wrong, we'll never know what was really said behind closed doors. So for the things that we can control, guys, I think just keep it behind us. We thank him, obviously, but at the same time, he doesn't put us in the best shape going forward. He doesn't put it could be worse. Obviously, he could have prolonged this even longer. Yes, there are qualifiers coming up soon. That's why I would like to see this page turned sooner rather than later, and not have another shit show of qualifying and maybe not even getting into another tournament. So for me, that's the biggest thing. Obviously the biggest news surrounding that, currently from yesterday into today, is Luciano Spalletti. Now, is that official? I don't think so. I don't know. But it's looking like it's going towards a Spalletti appointment for the national team job. So I don't know if you guys had any opinion on that, but I'm glad, if this is true, that this is done, like I said, fast, because we need to install a whole new system in a short amount of time. And I don't know if it's going to be a finished product come the opening qualifying game for the Azzurri, but as long as these building blocks start now, I think it's probably the biggest thing going forward.
It's funny you bring that up, Adriana, because I did just search on X on Twitter. I searched for my account if I tweeted the word Spalletti recently, because I remember thinking after he resigned from Napoli with his sabbatical, I remember thinking, national team. There's a guy who's in the hot seat, and it takes less day-to-day grind than coaching the club team. Maybe. Yeah. So I was curious if I tweeted something, because then I got the receipts, and I did. I replied to someone on June 15th. So that's 2 months ago. I wrote, I think that would have been after the loss against Spain. I wrote a tweet saying, time to move on. Someone replied, they need a new manager. Times have changed. And I said Spalletti's available. And so I'm not, I won't believe it till I see it, until the FIGC tweets out that he's hired. But if I'm a betting man, like I think we would just put money on him becoming the national team coach at this point. Obviously, there are names like Conte. Even Gattuso was a name. Even someone brought up Buffon. Yeah, Cannavaro would be an interesting one. Even Buffon, he just got a job with the FIGC. I don't know what exactly, but yeah, there's some interesting names. What I really like about Spalletti versus like former players like Gattuso, Cannavaro, even if you want to throw in Buffon's name, is that he seems like a player's coach. I know he's had those issues with Totti and then Insigne over his years, but this guy just won the Scudetto. He just took a team that nobody thought would even finish top four and brought them to the Scudetto, their third Scudetto ever, one of the most dominant teams that we've seen in the past 10, 15 years. What I think he would be able to do is just change the mentality of the team and really just like I don't think he even has enough time to come in here and put in a system. But at the end of the day, he's going to have a group of players. It's not like he could transfer players in or whatever. Yeah, you could argue that they could probably go to Brazil, go to Argentina, get some players from there. But he has a group of players that he knows well. He's coached in Serie A for many years. And he's going to be able to find their strengths. You could say the same about Conte too. And what I like about the possibility of Conte is that you saw what he did in Euro 2016, and he took 11 players, 10 pieces of wood and there, and we almost got to the semifinals of the Euros. But with Conte, I would see it. He coaches at the Euros and then leaves. Spalletti could maybe be a bit of a long term, maybe until the World Cup qualifying. There's money involved, but
we saw the guys. Yeah. I think for Conte, and you bring up some good points, Nick. But for me, I think the dollar value, the coin, is going to be what holds us back from a guy like Conte to bring him back. I personally don't see Conte, and I think if these rumors, which a lot of reliable sources are saying, are pointing towards Spalletti, we kind of have to lean that way. I didn't see Conte coming back. I mean, for me, it's always been the dollar value, and if the numbers are true of what Conte would have to accept, or even who, in this case maybe Spalletti, about a 5 million, 6 million type of value in terms of salary and contract. I don't know. Conte's demands for me would have been way more than that. Entering the double digits for me. So, if we can get, like I said, it's very hypothetical, but let's say this does go through and we do have Spalletti as our new national team coach at a, I don't want to say a discounted salary, but at a salary that can be managed with the FIGC. I think it's probably the better route. You're right, though. Euro 2016, we didn't know what we had. Conte found 11 scappate di casa, and we rolled with it as far as we could. So we'll always commend them for that. Can he work that magic again? I don't know. I don't think we'll ever know. But Spalletti, I think it gives him more time to, like you said, not have the pressures and the exhausting hours of club play. International scene is obviously different, as we all know, and I think he has. I think now, just by seeing what Mancini laid out, excluding maybe the old guard and those veteran players that some of them shouldn't be on the roster anymore, I think a guy like Spalletti can see what Mancini kind of laid out in terms of player selection, in terms of players available, in terms of what they're able to bring. Just recently seen Matteo Retegui, and other names that really emerged throughout these last couple months within the year. I think a guy like Spalletti can work with them and really go forward. He brought this Napoli team to an all-time high with some young players, obviously some veterans in the mix there, but if we can play that offensive, play style that Spalletti was able to bring for Napoli. And again, I know we don't have a Victor Osimhen. I know we don't have a Kvaratskhelia. I do know that, but if he's able to bring anywhere near those levels to our national team with the players that we do have to bring them to new heights, I can't say I can find too many things wrong with that. So I think, even though there was a debate Conte Spalletti, I think it's really leaning towards Spalletti in my opinion.
I mean, Jan, you're the expert on Spalletti, so we need your thoughts.
Well, yeah, because he managed both Roma and Napoli.
Yeah.
Um, honestly, if Spalletti comes in, there's going to be a fight with De Laurentiis and the FIGC. It's not going to be like a smooth transition. If Spalletti the rumors are true that he will become the new manager. Uh, like I expect a shit show coming from De Laurentiis, and understandably so, because one of the conditions of his sabbatical is that he wasn't allowed to sign another contract for the next month without paying without earning, like, without De Laurentiis getting some kind of financial compensation for it. Um, because the guy wanted to take a break. That was the goal, is for him to take a break, not for him to go manage a different team. So that's gonna happen. But at this point, I mean, I wouldn't really care if there is a shitstorm or not. Let De Laurentiis do that. Let him do whatever he wants. In terms of objectively, will Spalletti be a good coach for the national team? Why not? It's good to have change every once in a while. Things tend to get stale, especially formations. It won't be too much of a change from Mancini's 4-3-3. Spalletti also manages in a 4-3-3 style, so it wouldn't be like a hard transition for the players either in terms of adapting to a new formation. Because if Conte were to come in, he would implement his 3-5-2, and that's going to have to take a bit of work. I'm not saying the team doesn't have the players to play a 3-5-2, nor do they lack the skill set to play a 3-5-2. It's just more of, okay, we've been playing for a 4-3-3 for such a long time, and now we're going to have to adapt to this. Um, Personally speaking, I would like to see more of a 4-4-2 to try to capitalize more on our mids. Since we do lack a striker in the middle, try to might have like try to have like the wingers like be more of the offensive drive. But if Rete Goal turns out to be a good project for the team, we can see. So I think if Spalletti comes in, I could see him sticking with the 4-3-3 just for a bit to see if anybody's capable to play in that striker role for the 4-3-3. And if he sees that not working out so well, I could see him making some adjustments. I think he's also like a cheaper option.
Yeah.
If you look at the costs between the two, Conte is used to getting these ludicrous contracts from the Prem right now, and he's in the phase where, as a manager, he preferred to make the dollar amount. Uh, and I don't blame him. Obviously, it's like he's chasing the bag, and that's his prerogative. So let him get whatever money he wants. Whereas Spalletti, at his age, like he finally got that Scudetto. He finally got what he was like driving for the longest time. Usually when you get to the older age, you're just like, you know what? Maybe I should take an ease. Like I should take a seat back from the pressure of trying to win year in and year out for club football. Let me try to go for the international trophy. And sometimes the international trophy is like, especially when you're an Italian, is like the trophy to go for, because the country is capable and has showed many times that it's capable of winning those major international trophies. It's a realistic goal. Like, it's not like, for example, no disrespect to Jose Mourinho, but like, Portugal just finally won after their golden generation won a Euro Cup. Like like a guy like Mourinho, for example, he would rather manage for the Champions League trophies, because even though Portugal does have a solid chance to win these international trophies, it's not something that occurs extremely often as Italy had. So it's not something that, like, it's like something that maybe you can try for towards the end, but it's not going to be something that, like, yeah, I'd rather go fight for a Champions League trophy or like Europa League trophy, as he does year in and year out. His goal is to come in, win a European title for a club team. So I'm getting off on a tangent, but what I'm saying is that a guy like Spalletti does make sense. Uh, he would like to add maybe a European title, like a Euro Cup, or like if it happens, a World Cup to his resume. I mean, I'm not saying it's a guarantee, but there's the possibility is there, but he's gonna have to like do a lot of work in terms of motivating the players.